Hi, this is the getting started video for count cond, which is question 5 on this week's lab. What count cond is it's a function that takes in one argument called condition, and condition itself is another function that takes in two different arguments, and it goes ahead and returns true or false based on whether or not the two passed in arguments meets the condition it's specifying. So what count cond will do is it takes in that condition function and returns another function with one parameter n that will count all the numbers from 1 to n that satisfy the two argument predicate, which is this condition function. So to visualize this a little bit more, let's say we have some sort of function called divisible. And divisible is a function that takes in two arguments, n and I. And it'll go ahead and return whether or not n is divisible by I. And we can go ahead and check that by seeing if the modulo, so n modulo I, if this is equal to 0, that means that n is divisible by I, and this will return true. So here, divisible would serve as a condition function because it takes in two parameters, n and I, and returns true or false based on that condition it's checking. So here it's checking if n is divisible by I. And when we go ahead and pass this into count cond, so here we're going to pass divisible as the condition function into count cond. What count cond will do is this will return a new function that will go ahead and take in one parameter n. So here, count cond, we pass in the condition, and it returns a new function. Now, after we go ahead and pass some number into this function, so maybe let's say we want to go ahead and call this function on the input of 10, for example. What this is going to do is it's going to loop through all the numbers from 1 to n and see if any of those numbers match the condition. So here, just to visualize this more, it's going to loop through all the numbers 1 to n. So it'll go to 1, 2, all the way to 10. And it'll check if all of, for each of these numbers, whether or not it satisfies the divisible argument. So here, we're going to go ahead and first check if 10 is divisible by 1. Here, this is true. So since this is true, 10 is divisible by 1, we add 1 to our count. We do the same thing with 2. If 10 is divisible by 2, we also go ahead and add another 1 to our count. And we go ahead and repeat this process for all the numbers between 1 and 10. We go ahead and call the condition function on our current n and our I from 1 to 10. And if that's true, we add 1 to our count. And at the very end, we see how many of these numbers satisfy our condition function. So here, like we would have a 5 somewhere. That would be the third one that satisfies it. And then a 10 here at the very end. So calling this function should return 4. Now, in our doc tests, we have a couple of different functions as well. Here, the condition that we're passing in is checking if we go ahead and multiply n by I, and we sum their digits, we try to see how many different combinations of n times I, how many combinations of those digits add up to 5. And then in the second example, we're simply trying to just count all of the prime numbers from 1 to n. And here we have our isPrime function. And in order to kind of convert this isPrime function that takes in only one argument into a new function that takes in two arguments, we have to go ahead and wrap it in this lambda here. So notice that I already said that condition has to be a function that takes in two arguments. So here, isPrime only takes in one argument. So we're going to turn this into a function that takes in two arguments, n and I, but all it does is it just calls isPrime on I. And we can use this same condition function in our count cond function. So to kind of just outline type of thing we'll be coding up. Since countCond is returning this other function here, so let me just go ahead and highlight that. Here, countCond is returning this new function. We have to go ahead and define a new function that we're going to return that takes in n. And here, this new function we're defining will do some work. And at the very bottom, we want to just return our new function that we've created. That's the main body of our countCond function. And then here, inside the inner body of this new function we're creating, that has to handle all of the logic of looping through all the numbers and keeping track of the count. So basically, we have to go ahead and call like condition. We want to check all of the numbers from 1 to n here. Count up all of these function calls that return true, and then return that total count. So for this question, you'll be using some sort of control logic within the inside of this inner function to solve this problem. All right, hope that helped, and good luck.